Hello again and welcome to the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy podcast. Give us a second, apologies for that. Just making sure that we're all working. Apparently it was, but we're all good. As you can see, I'm next to Paul. Came up to visit Paul for a day or two up in Edinburgh. I've had some haggis and tatty scones, as he calls them, for breakfast. I say teas a lot. See, when I've noticed you even your girlfriend's name. I noticed you call her Katie, and I call her Katie, and I say tatty scones, and you say tatty scones and stuff. But no, I had a really good time. Yesterday went to a few pubs for the day. Drank far more than we should have. I went to Paul's poker club in the night as well, where we both ended up coming away with a few quid. After which I've questioned that I don't think I can spend Scottish money in Wales. I don't mean legally. I mean I don't think anyone will accept it. So we've been out all morning having breakfast, trying to spend those winnings, which we won before I get back to the airport. But anyway, regardless of all that, Sky Fantasy football. Last night, Paul, you had Bowen anyway, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I brought in. I was a bit drunk yesterday, and we were chatting Sky for quite a lot of the day, and I was really torn between Salah out for Bowen, or Mitrovic out for Scamacca, or maybe Alisson out for Fabianski, or just give it a skip. And in the end, took Mitrovic out for Scamacca, which it was more of like a coverage pick than anything. But couple of you're up to 98. Paul, you're obviously doing really well. 148, a little drop last night, but not much happening last night in the West Ham game.
No. Yeah, as I say, I had Bowen, and a few people had asked me on Twitter what I would do in their position. I still think I would have made the coverage move, and is it the level of disappointment if he blanked over the elation, if he returned well? His ownership went up from 20% to 40%. I think that had he returned anything, the percentage in the top 1k would be even higher than that, maybe up towards 50%. So it's difficult. With it being an easy captaincy when Man City play, picking Haaland for any Man City fixtures, I think the appeal of Salah in future games, obviously, is not going to be playing particularly well offensively for fantasy returns, but the fact that most will then captain Haaland on those days that Liverpool play the same day as City anyway, made it less risky, I think, taking Salah out. So
yeah,
a multitude of the options, knowing that you were going to captain the player that you were taking out in the run up to the World Cup, I think were viable. In fact, I'd mentioned I always like the goalkeeper moves. I think that there's a lot of value in there, and even though I'm still stuck with Dean Henderson and I haven't moved them on, even though I love those types of moves, I think that those that moved to Fabianski last night, obviously a great move. 11-pointer, double to 22. West Ham fixtures are okay. Away to Man United next Sunday, but they've got 2 home games in the follow up to that as well, up to the World Cup. So yeah, great move for those that moved on to Fabianski. But even if I hadn't owned Bowen or Scamacca and brought one of them in, I don't know that I would be too disappointed. Yeah, they did look great offensively, and they looked more structured and rigid rather than attacking threat. But it was a coverage section. You look what happened with Maddison on the Monday night a few weeks back.
It was the Maddison one which was like scared me a little bit, and we touched on it yesterday. Really, we had kind of remember that Felipe Anderson double for West Ham as well, but I think it's also the fact for Bowen and Scamacca and stuff. I don't think I'd have made a move if they didn't have 2 of their final 3 fixtures at home as well against a struggling Palace and what have been a leaky Leicester. And I think they got United as well. Even that United game without Varane, it's okay fixtures. So I think regardless, it's okay. Couple in the chat said about Zuma. If you've got Zuma, it's fine. And someone mentioned about Manchester says twat of the week goes to me. Forgot to captain Saturday, so missed out on 14 extra Haaland points and took Zuma out last week, who would have been my 28-point captain last night. Not much you can do about that. Couple of mentions about the audio, obviously because we're not, I'm not at home in my office and stuff. We're just using the laptop audio, so apologies for that. But hopefully it's still legible. on the weekend, we had a question earlier, Paul, just around, obviously you've crept now into top 100. I found this weekend very strange because I don't feel I had a great weekend, and over the last 3 weeks, I feel I've had pretty decent weekends, but I've kind of doubled in rank before clawing it back, whereas this weekend was quite strange in terms of I don't feel I had a good one, but I actually halved my rank, and you said the same yesterday. So we had a question around whether you've just kind of organically got into that or whether there were some aggressive moves.
I didn't use any moves at the weekend there, and my team looks very, very template. So I was as surprised as you were that I moved up as many places as I did, and I had players at blank. So I've got Zaha in my team still. I did warn everyone that when I was bringing in Zaha, I knew, like, they had the fixtures, so it was an obvious move for me. And I was taking out Fofana, so any points was a gain on the player that I was taking out. But yeah, I knew that Zaha would go on this run. It seems to coincide with every time that I pick him up. And I mentioned on the pod last week, he's like the opposite of a flat trap bully. When he's got the green fixture run, he's just, even when he returned last week, I didn't captain him, so I didn't get the benefits from him. But yeah, like a quiet week for me. I had Dean Henderson still, so picking up the 12-pointer against Liverpool was obviously a surprise and kind of a welcomed bonus from holding him through all those ones and minus ones and twos, etc. through that pain. But looking at my team, I captained Haaland on Saturday. His ownership was like 95%, the top 1,000 before that, of which some maybe went Salah, but the majority would have been Haaland captain. Then on Sunday I captained Kane, so a 9-pointer double to 18. Kane's ownership 60%, the top 1,000. And then Bowen I already owned, he was at 20%. Going into yesterday morning, it was 40% this morning. So again, not like I didn't really get points. I got some passing bonus and some tackle bonus from players in my squad. I've held Polina. I brought in Mitrovic on Thursday. I had Luke McAllister got booked on the Tuesday night, and he was sitting on 4 bookings. Not the best fixture run, so I made that move from McAllister to Mitrovic, but I held on to Polina, so as well as getting the double Mitrovic points on Thursday, I picked up Polina's points from that game as well. So that's back-to-back tier 2 tackles Polina's picked up. So again, just nice steady returns that's adding to this, but playing the same kind of boring way that I always play, and not captaining not like the highest owned player or in my view is what the most obvious captain would be, and I plan to continue that through the World Cup. I'm actually at this present moment in time thinking I'm not using any more transfers. I had earmarked an Arsenal attacker to bring in, whether I was quite flexible in terms of bringing in Martinelli, Jesus or Saka, but we're not Forest tightening up a bit. I think in Saliba not picking up a 5th booking, as long as he's in the team sheet on the early game on Sunday, I think I'll just end up captaining him, and that should see me through. I've got Ian Parron asked the question last week about who I'm most scared of not owning as a percentage basis. It still is Foden, even though he got the 1-pointer at the weekend there. But I think I'm just going to muddle through. I'd be captaining Haaland over Foden anyway, so I'd be taking out a player that's, unless I've got an injury, I'd be taking out a player that's going to pick up points. So I would need Foden to outscore that player by, say, what would the value of the transfer is, 15 points to that point in time. I think that I can better utilise that transfer later on in the season.
Yeah, a couple of points just around kind of Arsenal and Forest. So when I had to look last week, there were 2 days which I was really kind of stuck on. Yesterday was the first real dilemma I've had all season. It's not even so much, who to bring in. It was who to take out, because I couldn't get to someone really obviously. If I wanted to do Zaha to Bowen, probably Zaha is maybe the one who's, apparently he's had like 1 shot on target in the last 6 games. I don't think you're going to massively miss out on Zaha. He's not going to score, well, he's very likely to score like a kind of brace or a hat-trick. So that was one. And the next one was next Sunday, as you say, like Arsenal to Forest. If you'd have looked at that 2 or 3 weeks ago when Arsenal were scoring loads of goals and Forest were conceding loads of goals, you'd probably say 100% need an attacker. Whereas now I think the same boat as you. Forest back-to-back clean sheets. Okay, I know they kind of rolled their luck, and Henderson's been in inspired form, but Arsenal seem to have not be scoring as many goals as they were, and I do think now that Saliba, you've got to well, I say you've got to think it's probably. He's got a good chance of a 9 or 10 pointer, haven't he? I think I think that as well. I think that the way that a lot of teams are set up. So kind of looking at our two front lines now, Haaland, Kane, and you've got Mitrovic. I use Mitrovic on the Scamacca, but getting Jesus is not easy now without, even Mitrovic to Jesus. I don't think is a great. I think Mitrovic. If you look at how he's been scoring, he seems to be getting kind of 9 points. Most games at the moment, which is more than Jesus. And you're probably not going to want to get rid of Kane or Haaland either. So I don't even think it's that easy to get to. Martinelli, even though he's having a fantastic season as a player, he's got some returns. He's probably not, he's certainly not kind of essential. And Saka's been playing well, but again, not essential. So I do think that game has changed a bit now for next week. And I think I may use a transfer or two, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have Mitrovic now, obviously, because I moved to Scamacca, what I really want. And I think just moving on to Salah, I think is really interesting because he was one I was, I was convinced at one point yesterday I was going to take out. It's just can't get away from it. Like home, if they were home to anyone, maybe even apart from Leeds on the weekend, who were in a bit of trouble, conceding goals, managers kind of under threat and stuff, I was definitely taking him out. Not going to captain him for the rest of the thing. But what are your thoughts on if people are still thinking of taking out Salah ahead of the Leeds game for whatever reason, or just not holding Salah in general, do you think he's a real threat?
I don't think he's a real threat, and even though the Leeds game's on the same day as the Man City game, all of which we will see the lineup. So if for whatever reason Haaland wasn't playing, then maybe Cancelo's still well owned, but I'm not convinced that I wouldn't captain Cancelo over Salah now as well. But I just don't know that I can see the value in moving Salah on to get someone that's going to score 15 to 20 more points than him till World Cup over the 3 days. Especially with, I guess you get an extra fixture game by moving on to an Arsenal player. But then Arsenal, I think, play Chelsea the following week, so it's not a great offense. It's not a great offensive fixture for them anyway. And even I've just bemoaned Zaha and I've just bemoaned Bowen. Both final two fixtures are really good as well. So I'm not convinced if I made the move that the player I brought in would outscore the player that I was taking out over that period of time. And I'd be more annoyed if the player I took out scored more. If you look at recent examples, I've taken Maddison out, obviously got that booking and missed the extra game, but players just seem to be come back and haunting those players that have taken, those managers that have taken out. Dean Henderson's another example. Twice last week, I bemoaned not moving Henderson onto Kepa, and I had the 0.1 exactly in the bank to do that move both times. Kepa, on the back of Henderson's performance, has scored a 12-pointer. Then I think it was back-to-back 12-pointers, and then looking at the 4 fixtures for Henderson to Kepa, I even had thought about the logistics of doing that, knowing that Henderson played Liverpool and Arsenal. Now, this might be a bit of hindsight for me, but then there might be something in it, because the fact that I've held on to Henderson, there's usually a reason why I do something. And I had looked at the goals that Forest were conceding. Yes, they were conceding loads of chances, but they'd scored an unusual amount of goals conceded an unusual amount of goals from the edge of the box, where there were rockets going into the top corner that Henderson had no chance on. And I was like, that's not really sustainable, players taking pot shots from 20 yards and hitting the top corner every time. So I did think that over the course of the 4 games, Henderson would start picking up saves bonus. So maybe I think that played part of in my mind. Can I honestly say that I thought Kepa would had more than a 60 or 70% chance of outscoring Henderson by 15 points over that? Now, watching Kepa play after Henderson both of those games, I was like, maybe I've made a mistake, and maybe it has, but there was something telling me to keep Henderson, and it paid off. So I think just going back to the question then, that taking players out, popular players that were in your team for a reason, has been coming back to haunt people recently, so managers recently. So again, I'm just not too keen on making any unnecessary moves. It's a bit different if a player you've got on Saturday picks up an injury and then moving on to a player on the Sunday that's got 3 fixtures. Do you think they'd score kind of 5 points on average over the 3 fixtures, and maybe throwing a captaincy in there as well? Then that makes it much more worthwhile. But if you're taking out players that already, like that are fit and are playing. Like most of these popular picks have decentish fixture runs to the World Cup as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's only one player I'm scared of, and I think we're quite fortunate. Well, I think both of us were fortunate looking at our teams last week that Foden didn't start. I can imagine there was many disappointed Sky managers, and the fact that even players like Akanji and Aki we talked about last week didn't get the clean sheet, didn't get passing as well, which was maybe one of the reasons why actually we didn't kind of fall behind, because I do think there's a lot of teams that have got maybe Akanji and Foden, for example, who on another day would have scored 15 or 20 points between them. Foden is a player I'm really nervous about. There's one not owning. Away to Leicester this week, I don't think that is as attractive as fixture as it was, but then they have obviously back-to-back home games against, I think it's Brentford and Fulham or something. Would there be anything that would tempt you to get Foden in? Apart, obviously if Salah gets injured, for example, and we learn it ahead of this week, would there be any other way you would think to get Foden in, or are you just leaving it now?
I think I'm leaving it. I think you're right though. If somebody got ruled out, somebody that was one move for me to get to Foden from that player. The fact that you see City's team sheet as well. Foden had started every league game this season up until the weekend, so owners or those that brought him in have to feel unlucky by that. There was no suggestion that he was going to be benched. A lot of the real good prediction threads on Twitter all had Foden starting. It's going to feel a bit lucky, and as you say, like both of us felt a bit fortunate from there. But if Salah gets an injury in the Champions League midweek, and the thought is that he'll be out until the World Cup starts, then I would move on to Foden, or Haaland or Kane injury. I could do the same as well. I could see me doing that. But other than that, I just don't think, because I'll be captain Haaland, so my personal upside is limited because I would always captain Haaland anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's have a look at the fixtures at the weekend. 8 games on Saturday, which is quite a rarity, but nice to have. Going to be a busy Saturday. Leicester Man City, as you mentioned earlier, is the early game. Get to see the lineups. Bournemouth and Spurs. So obviously, Kane has still got pretty good ownership. Solanke limped off yesterday for anyone who missed that. Brentford against Wolves. Raya, who had done well a couple of times, obviously got battered by Leicester on the weekend. So that's going to be an interesting one there.
7 save points. 7 saves, so tier 2 saves.
Tier 2 saves still, yeah, no, you can't argue with that. Brighton and Chelsea, not really sure what you're going to get from Brighton at the moment against Chelsea. Palace, Southampton, Zaha owners will be hoping for something there. Newcastle against Villa. Now it's going to be interesting to, because obviously Villa without Gerrard, they suddenly took the handbrake off, so that could be a bit more interesting game than it would have been a week or two ago. Fulham and Everton. Now I don't own Mitrovic now, which I really, really don't like. But again, Everton, really good performance and result last weekend. Seemed to tightened up. I don't think they've conceded many goals all Everton this season. Definitely, I don't think they've conceded more than I want to say 2 all season. So maybe it's not the end of the world. Not having Mitrovic.
He has looked quite sluggish. I know that the last 3 games he scored 3 goals. 2 of them were penalties. One which was a scuffed penalty that I think owners could be very fortunate that it went in as well. Yes, on paper, Fulham, free scoring Fulham at home to Everton side, you'd think Mitrovic should do well. I guess you're protected by the fact that as long as Haaland starts for City, that you can't double down on losses there, because you would never captain them, and other managers are unlikely to captain them as well.
No, I agree. And then lastly, Liverpool and Leeds, we've mentioned. Leeds in a bit of trouble. Liverpool at Anfield, for all their woes, they're still excellent at Anfield. Salah, Van Dijk, Alisson, the legend. I think he scored some 31 points midweek. Paul messaged me. He was, you were a bit sick, wasn't you, at the penalty save, because you had Bowen and I had Alisson, and I just messaged him something like Midas, and I think I had back. I've just stopped myself throwing my phone at the TV. So that was pretty good for Alisson owners. An assist and a penalty save. And he nearly scored on Saturday. Well, I say nearly scored. That's being a bit.
He got a touch in the box at the end.
He got a touch in the box at the end. If he hadn't have fouled the player, he could have tapped it in, which would have been hilarious.
I messaged you 0-0 saying I bet Alisson comes up, and the way that you're running just now, Alisson will come up in the last minute and score. And even though they were getting beat at that time, I was just like,
Brilliant. So yeah, obviously Haaland captain there. You got to say just in absolutely unbelievable form. And then Sunday, Arsenal and Forest, United, West Ham. So again, the Scamacca move and that it's a bit underwhelming this week. But then the following 2 weeks. So for me, I think Fulham then goes in Man City, Man United. Whereas West Ham have back-to-back home games, Palace and Leicester, Palace and Leicester or something like that. So yeah, I think I'm okay there. But yeah, Saliba probably be popular. Jesus, I think his ownership is how much is his ownership now in the top? So Saliba's 77% ownership in the top 1K at the moment. I know Jesus went down a little bit, didn't it? But 33.6, which is still okay. And I probably think for those who own Jesus and maybe Martinelli, they would probably captain him over Saliba, I would guess. But I don't think I'm as scared as I was. Martinelli's 46.4%, but in his last, he's looking at his last 6 games, Martinelli, and this is why I'm not that interested. Really, I just saw his last 6. I can't press it. His last 6 scores are 2-2, 4-11, 2-2. So while the Forest game is really, really good, I'm just not. I can't get that excited about it.
If you've got an abundance of transfers, I think I pinpointed this game to answer a question a few weeks ago from Dave Perrin was talking about not playing many cash leagues, so his inspiration isn't a top 100 finish or anything like that. His is to win the game, and I can't remember what rank he was at, something in the thousands. But knowing that the points are quite condensed, I still think, whilst I'll play it safe and pick Saliba, that this is one of those games where a good differential could come off. You get the fixture game because the player plays on the Saturday, you move off the player on the Sunday, so this could be the time Jesus' ownership's down to 1 and 3, or Saka, someone like that perhaps. Martinelli's ownership's quite high, so I imagine he will be well captained within the midst of those owners. But yeah, this could be a Saka or a Jesus game if you're looking for what I would say an educated differential pick. Is a good opportunity.
Yeah, agree. Let's have a look at a few of the questions that we have had in. Apologies, you have to do this by phone. So very, very disorganised this week.
So there's a star.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so FPL Foxy says, live from his bedroom, what's your guys' favourite position? Never kiss and tell, mate. Sorry. So let's just leave that there.
Fantasy football position. Well, it used to be the 5-3-2, right? For me, for the boring Sky manager amongst us, position formation. Maybe so. If I was going position, then defender.
Defender, I like that. I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not the aggressor. Can we get?
Only one for somebody against Man United.
Should I be bringing in someone perhaps from Man United, like an Anthony? However, don't know who to replace him with. Dyer, Cancelo, VVD, Silva, Webster at the back to transfer him to. Only have Barrett. I go for Bowen personally. Would you be bringing? I do like the look of Rashford. We were kind of chatting about this morning, weren't we, over our haggis, but I think Rashford, he had 2 like how he didn't score against Spurs, I don't know, hitting both kind of straight to keeper, I suppose. Amazing things from Lloris. Had 2 really good chances against Chelsea as well. I think Rashford 8 million is still a pretty good option. They have Fulham again, don't they, on the final day before the World Cup. So I think I would prefer Rashford over anyone there, but I'm not sure I'd bring him in against West Ham, who've been quite resilient the last 2. We've smirking at Paul.
The origin of how we started talking about Rashford was because Fergi and I were asking my partner what players and managers that she knew of and what her opinions were on those players. Just like one of those ones that, from a non-footballing perspective, I'm a priority. I love his Vaseline Darms situation. So we started talking about Marcus Rashford, and Katie's analysis of him was he does great things off the park. And I'm not sure on the park, but I know that Paul's always moaning about him. So
yeah, we had a really interesting conversation with Katie on the way to breakfast. I think we're gonna have to get on the pod sometimes, Paul, because the insight
our Marco Bielsa intrigue that's inspiring.
That's it. That was Katie's question of the week. Is I wonder what Bielsa is doing today.
And if his wife's happy with the extension on his house.
Exactly. No, it was really good fun. And
so you said stick with Bowen. I don't know that I would have moved that after Spurs played Salibas on the 4 bookings. I don't know. I just think he's a good captain option on Sunday, and I would hold Saliba through if the thought is that don't hold Saliba. If you don't own any Fulham players, bringing in a Man United player might help you in captaincy on the last day before the World Cup on the Sunday as well. Rashford is even lower on my terms of bringing in than Zaha just now in terms of owning ever again. So I'm not convinced I would go there, but it's maybe my own personal anguish of owning him.
Glenroy says, pizza crunch in hand, I hope. He says, venture down South Lanarkshire way. None of this salt and sauce paste. I did actually miss out on salt and sauce last night because we went to Paul's local poker night, and at the end of the night it was, should we run up and get some in the break? But I'm not the kind of person who leaves a hand in poker. He was like, oh come on, we'll leave a couple of orbits, leave a couple of browns. Like, sorry, I can't do that. So I missed out on that. But you'd be pleased to know that I have got some haggis and tatty scones from the butchers as well to take down for my son to try for tea. The poor kid doesn't know yet. Rich Monroe with 3 points in 12 points in last 3 games. Who are you planning on transferring out to accommodate Fred? Once again, I'm ahead of the curve, Paul, on Fred.
Well, Almiron, not in Skytown, but Almiron was another, right? Like you had him in a couple of formats as he was blanking and then just ran on this phenomenal return.
In Your Dreams asks about Palace. Good question. Zaha might keep, but Anderson has surely got to go. There was some interesting. Anderson and Gehi's passes have been interesting because Gehi has been having like nearly twice as many as Anderson in the last 2 games. Would you hold on to Anderson? I think you've got to review.
I think if Palace's fixtures were much worse in the lead up to the World Cup, then perhaps I would consider it. But nah, I would hold both all the way through now, unless you were missing a captaincy. All of these are before the way, so yeah, I'm going to scroll up. Fergi.
You work the mouse for me. Not left-handed. I consider left-handed. Neil asks thoughts on Romero. Hold and save a sub, but put someone in for 3 games. Do you think it would be worth it? 8.8 million budget. What do you think about that?
I would just again same for me. Unless you're missing a captaincy somewhere or something like that, I would hold them through to the World Cup personally.
Yeah. And Colin asks what to do with Perisic, Zaha. I think definitely hold Zaha. Unless you get rumours of a knock. Perisic, interesting one, but you're never sure if he's going to play or not. I do expect him to play 2 of the next 3, and the fixtures are okay. Well, they've got, I think it's Bournemouth, then Liverpool, which is obviously not going to be that good. I can't remember who they got last, but I think Leeds, the fixtures are all right. Leeds, yeah. I think you've got a hold. It could be a case, as Paul mentioned earlier, you take him out and he gets a clean sheet or he gets his assist or goal, and who do you take him out for really, unless you're desperate. And I suppose to round off these transfer questions, Chris Hermitage, he says, now the Monday single game day is gone, are any moves worth it outside of injuries given us 3 rounds of games? I think Paul, you're on the side of no.
Yeah, I mean, like City's got 3 really good fixtures coming up, and Foden could return a couple of double-digit hauls and perhaps up like a 5. Like he could amass 30 to 40 points potentially in that period of time. I'm just not convinced anybody that I'd take out. They've all got reasonably good fixtures, and I'm not too sure that I'd be more annoyed with myself if that player ended up outscoring Foden with captain and Haaland. So yeah, I think in summary, unless I got an injury or I was missing a captaincy for one of the days. But there's only 2 real captaincy days that would worry me now anyway, because the 3 sets of fixtures are 8 fixtures, so plenty of options there if Haaland doesn't start. 2 fixtures, right? So that 2 fixture blocks. One area where if you don't have a captaincy, you might consider. The following set of fixtures, I think it's 5 and 5. So you'll have, like, your team should already have coverage of both sides of that. And then I think it's 8 and 2 again. So Man United's one of the teams that play on both the 2s. So if you didn't own someone for one of those 2 already, then I'm not a massive Rashford fan, but something like that could work if you were covering 2 captaincies and you didn't have coverage outside of that. But for me, unless it's injuries, I now or Saliba doesn't turn up next Sunday and I need a captain, then but then I own Bowen as well, so I'll maybe just captain him and not bother with the Arsenal player.
Again, it's the value of transfer. I think this season specifically, and maybe it's because how many transfers you've used. Because obviously you've used a few more than me, and maybe I go on my experience transfers so far this season. Like for me, last night was the first time I've done a transfer which has really underwhelmed. I think the Zaha one has been okay. I think he had a 12-point today against Wolves, but other than that, he's underwhelmed. But he's still, he's still been okay. But I'm still at the fact that, and I think it changes during the season, the value of a transfer. I think at the moment, personally, 15 to 20 for me. I think you're more kind of the 12 to 15. But if you don't think you're going to get those additional points, bear in mind the players you're thinking of taking out like Zaha, who still has good fixtures, he's still on penalties and things. I can't see a lot of upside. Gordon Bell asked around bringing in Martinez, which I don't know why, unless it's for captaincy this Sunday maybe. Especially when you can bring in Akanji or Ake for less. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I don't know if that for me that question might be better. If you don't have captaincy, then I can understand that. As say, I've just played down Rashford. So if you did need two captaincies from a Man United player, then perhaps I think that'd be a good question to come up in overhaul. We'll start thinking about players that are guaranteed minutes that have started picking up bonus, and we'll do some analysis on both the season to date, but also in the more recent term. So looking at kind of the 6 game weeks before, so we know that you get a better view then of players that have made themselves into the team, and perhaps the team's playing slightly different than they had earlier on in the season. So we could do a 6-week comparison compared to the 16 game comparison, and we'll start looking at some of the City players against more nailed defenders, perhaps like Martinez. We could do a bit of that on the overhaul.
Cool. Okay. Just to say, this is our 99th episode. It's probably the 99th or 98th in ranking in terms of quality of stream, so apologies for that. But this is the 99th episode, so it'll be our 100th episode of 3 for 1 next week. I'll be back in the studio. Paul will be back. He'll have his own space back without me hoarding his room and stuff. But
we'd said, but maybe again, hopefully we'll reach out to Dan and see if he's got some time to come and join us as well.
It would be great if we can get Dan on to kind of bring back the old school 3 for 1 of how this all started off. So,
this is like the new version of Soccer-EM, and we want to bring back the Soccer-EM and Tim Lovejoy and Helen Chamberlain and.
Class, yeah. Hopefully, we do that next week and have a bit of fun. But I think that's it for us this week. Anything to add? Finally, Paul, I can't think an awful lot. There's only the 2 game days next week.
I'd say as a reminder as well. Yes, I'm sitting 98th overall, and you're doing well, but there's the points stretched between the positions is so compact. Yeah, there's a lot of we were looking at the Contributors League earlier on, and Frank FF stuff posted that, and you could see that Luke Williams and Niall Murphy and Martin Manon Pod are kind of right behind us as well, and the ranking positions look quite chunky, but then when you look at the points difference, they're very, very, very compact. So I wouldn't be too disheartened if you're not at the rank that you want to be at this point in time, and perhaps you see some engaged managers that are above you. I think that any differentials or your kind of single captaincies days could easily change that, close the gaps, and then they play after the World Cup as well. So I certainly wouldn't be too disheartened.
No, I completely agree. And again, just looking at the transfer averages, if you're looking at your mini league, obviously the content creator league and any kind of leagues in that have got a lot of engaged players, the gap is going to look big, and obviously it's going to be hard to get back. But looking at your other leagues and stuff, as long as you're being reasonably frugal with transfers and stuff, and and planning to go in with 30 plus and stuff, and you set your overhaul team up well and things, then it should be absolutely fine. So I think there's still this, we were looking at the league table yesterday, and I think a lot of the teams have still only played, most have played 12, some have only played 11. remember there's like 38 games. Like it's in between a quarter and a third of the games have been played. There's still so much, so much time to go in the season. I remember as I was in questions last year, like October, November, saying, "Oh, is anyone outside the top 100 going to win Sky?" And you just think, there's still like so much time. Things can change massively. Luck can change. You can run into a bunch of unexpected clean sheets. You can get Dean and Henderson and have his spunky luck for 2 weeks on the trot. Or there's
remember in the year Liam won it. Like I think I might not be. This isn't verbatim, so could be misquoting slightly. But I think that in the 6 weeks out, he wasn't in the top 100, or maybe he was just sitting just outside it.
Exactly.
A couple of differentials against highly owned captains on a couple of days, and just a smart plan of how to utilise his remaining transfers to make momentum there, and he made up the ground and won it. I say comfortably, 10, but though 10 points is comfortable or not, but I ended up winning from there as well. So it wasn't like he was leading, like for half the season.
Exactly.
I think is my point.
Yeah, no, agree. Okay, so that is it for us for this week. We'll be back probably next Monday at the usual time, 5:30 after the weekend's action. Best of luck for the weekend. Best of luck for Sky Game Week 13, and we will see you next week. Goodbye for now.